Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the East Coast Rams podcast. I'm your co-host Ashton here with my awesome co-host Zach. Just having wanting to wish everyone a happy Easter. We just got past that. Happy draft. Just a very weird draft, Zach, and we'll kind of go into that in a few seconds. If you guys don't mind, can you please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you also want to tell us your favorite draft pick or what draft pick we didn't make or the Rams didn't make, please let us know that down below. We would definitely love to hear your guys' comments and opinions on that. Now, Zach, this draft was a very interesting one, not only for the Rams, but for the entire NFL. Mel Kiper loves him some Shadur Sanders. How you doing, and how was your draft experience?
Woo! It's crazy. I mean, man, you kind of look through this as a whole picture, and I didn't watch it all live. I was kind of following through on the Twitter feeds. Had a lot of stuff going on, but I was keeping up to date on what the Rams were doing. It just feels weird. It feels weird because typically the Rams have a lot of draft picks. They usually have quite a few up their
Mm-hmm.
sleeve, and they started off with quite a few. But then they started to do some negotiations, and we'll talk all about that. But going from last year where they had uh, 10 draft picks, and then I think you said maybe the year before they made closer to
They had
12.
13 or
Um,
14, yeah.
and then going to this year when all said was done, they had six. So very different flow than
Mm-hmm.
we've normally seen from the Rams. But overall, I'm pretty ecstatic about it. I kind of do feel like I wish I would have had maybe one more pick that they could have brought in. But they did get a whole slew of undrafted free agents that we'll kind of quickly dive in towards the end. But before we start off, did you see the setup that the Rams had? At
Oh
their
yeah.
draft house, being at the LAFD, kind of that what was it the air operations for the fire department. I thought that was pretty cool.
No, it's definitely neat. I always thought they've kind of overdone it, to be honest, with the mansions on the beach and like I I frankly don't care. I mean, it's nice for them to do it at those nice places, but I thought this was a really cool moment that kind of like honor the community and kind of honor those people who, put their bodies on line and those first responders. So it looked like they had a lot of fun there and, they did a lot of good work. Hopefully, they have knocked the draft out of the park last 2 years. So Zach, hopefully it's 3 years in a row.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you. I think this kind of brought it kind of a little bit more back to the community for what the firefighters and the first responders did for LA during the fires. I like that LA does it a little differently, only because you watch some of these other drafts, and some of these other organizations are like just in this like weird tiny room, and again, it's not supposed to be visually appealing, but when you are making this kind of a production, it's just a cooler vibe to see what the Rams are doing compared to what the rest of the NFL are doing, which most of them are just in a boring old conference room outside of a couple. So really, really did enjoy it. But let's actually dive in to the draft. So Rams once again. Oh well, we did have a first round pick. This would have been the second first round pick in the Sean McVay era. But custom Rams fashion, they decided that they didn't want it. They punted it away, and probably for the best value that anyone probably could have gotten with that 26th pick. So they traded it away, their 26th pick, to to the Falcons. And yeah, what did you make of that trade?
So first off, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The Rams did try to trade up multiple times, targeting basically what people think is either Loveland or Tedero McMillan. They also tried to trade up also for Mbuka can't say his name. And I'm pretty sure they stopped trying because they thought he was gonna slide to them. And I'm I'm almost certain, Zach. I think they were planning on either picking Ferguson at 26 or picking Mbuka if he fell at 26 until the Falcons just came swinging with this wild offer. I think we put up a poll asking if people preferred like the picks that the Giants got, which I think they got 2 seconds, maybe a second and a third, and then like a sixth or a seventh, or that first and a middle round second pick. And you know, I do agree with people. It gives the Rams options. I don't necessarily think they have to go quarterback next year, but that's a whole other conversation. I think this whole draft, and I'll just pivot slightly to the draft strategy, was entirely about building up depth and filling in the few holes this roster does have, and really kind of rejuvenating those holes that they've had for a little bit of while. And I think it was less reaching, in my opinion, than they've done in the past few drafts. And it was a very focused draft, and they traded up for the people they thought could help them win a Super Bowl next year. Whether we agree or not as a fan base on the player, I feel like that was their intention, that if they liked the guy, they were going to go get him in that round if he was still around. And we can kind of pivot to Ferguson if you want, or do what
Yeah,
on the Falcons trade.
yeah. Let's talk about the trade because that does lead into Terrence Ferguson. And so the Rams trade their first round pick, 26 overall, to the Falcons, who they picked up edge James Pierce. I feel like that was kind of an odd move for them, but they wanted the player that they wanted. The Rams also received a 2025 third round pick, and which was subsequently then we traded that away to Denver. The Falcons received a and then we also received a sorry, that's what we traded away. The Falcons, they gave us the 2025 second round pick, which we did not have in this draft, and that's how we got the tight end Ferguson. 2025 seventh round pick, which we ended up getting Kanata Mumfield with our last pick of the draft. And we also received the Falcons' first round pick for the 2026 season, which is big because that means right now the Rams have 2 first round picks in the 2026 season. So when and again, you kind of alluded to this with this whole the quarterback talk, but when you're somebody like that who has 2 first round picks, it's one of those things where your spotlight now is on you, where you're more intention maybe to get get the quarterback that you want for the future. To whether Matthew Stafford stays for another season after this current season, there's going to be someone who's going to want to. They're going to want to be under Matthew Stafford, and even Matthew Stafford has come out to say that he's willing to put somebody under his wing if that's where the Rams are going to go. Because I think Stafford knows he only has a few more years left in him, and so the Rams aren't trying to replace Stafford. They're trying to figure out what to do once they move on. Once Stafford and the Rams decide to move on.
Yeah, definitely. Next year is a big QB draft. You're going to have 4 or 5, I believe, like NFL level caliber QBs, a lot stronger than this year. So it's definitely draft. If you want to go after a successor, you can, depending on how high or low our picks are. But that's a next year conversation. Let's kind of dive into our new, who I think will end up being tight end one eventually.
Yeah, so we have like you said, Terrence Ferguson, tight end. McVay has been looking for tight ends since he's basically been an LA Ram. He's
Yep.
we've talked about it year after year. Last year it was Bowers. He's always tried to move up so that he can get a tight end. That's just the way Sean McVay was. He was a tight ends coach. He really understands that position. He understands the value at that position. Not only are you a blocker, but you're a catcher. You're that Swiss Army knife that he really wants to utilize. Sean McVay is really great at taking a person and developing them into that dual role and like being that threat, showing the same front, but tweaking it a little differently. And when you have utility players, like I think Tyler Higbee has been for the Rams, um, I think that's what Sean McVay wants. He wants the next version. He wants someone to be able to take over for Tyler Higbee once they part ways there. And I think Tyler Ferguson was a great pick at 46, coming from Oregon. Um, I think that really they really want someone to kind of replace, like I said, replace Tyler Higbee, and I think he's that person. This isn't really like the Gerald Everett, the Bryce Hopkins. I think this is
Hmm.
a different player who the Rams are really going to utilize in a really great way.
Hmm. Yeah, this guy is a physical freak. Typically, I would say for the most part, like Rams have done this under McVay and Snead every so often, where they pick these physical freak players. Um, I would say most of the time it hasn't worked out because they fall for various reasons. Like Terrell Lewis was a physical freak, and like just kept on getting hurt. Same thing with Jacob Harris, less hurting and just didn't wasn't able to succeed in the system. But I feel like Ferguson is way more well-rounded than either of those two. He has better draft capital. The Rams wanted to take him in the first round, and they traded up. Did they trade up in the second round to get him?
They did not
Uh,
trade up to get him. They
okay,
used that
okay.
pick.
They let him fall, but there was a run on tight end starting at that point too. So I like the Arroyo a lot. He was kind of like who I wanted the Rams get at tight end, but Ferguson, I think he has all the physical elements, and if this coaching staff thinks he has everything else, I will say like across the board, this entire draft class, their personality is fantastic. They seem like great culture fits for the Rams, and I think this staff, that's one of the best things we talk about endlessly. The locker room, the culture, they know how to find good men like of that mold that can come in and just contribute more to it. And this entire draft class is like that. Ferguson, very impressive when you see him in kind of like the post interviews talking about getting drafted and everything. So I do have a little bit questions about his blocking. The few games I watched at Oregon, like it was good. It didn't come off as great as a runner. Like I said, he's like physical. He's very quick, but like, was it the QB? Was it like him not getting good enough target share? Like we'll see. And I definitely do think you talk about a tight end room that had the least amount of receiving yards in the NFL. Like we had to change that. They had to invest in it. I've been beating it like senselessly in the last year, Zach, that we needed to get a tight end. We needed a red zone target really
Yeah,
badly, and the coaching staff agreed. So
100%. They've tried different options. They've tried with Parkinson. They tried. I mean, over the years, you had Gerald Everett, you had Bryce Hopkins, you had even Davis Allen. No one, again, like when we're saying that Tyler, and I'm a Tyler Higbee fan. I do love me some Tyler Higbee. You know this, Ashton. He has been successful because everybody else has flopped. And again, like, is he the best tight end? No, but is he in the mid to upper tight ends? I do believe so. And I think that you're getting someone who's going to learn under Tyler Higbee, understand his intentions and understand his ability and train with him. And as Ferguson, he's 6'5", he's an inch shorter, but roughly the same size as Tyler Higbee. And I
a lot
do think that
quicker.
this is going, yeah, a lot quicker. He has this, like you said, this draft class has this demeanor about them. They're craving this. They want to win. I think they really want to play for Sean McVay. And so I'm really looking forward to this. And yes, tight end was on your draft list, especially on the upper tier. Again, just to replace that Tyler Higbee spot, whether that's this year or whether that's the following year. I think that Ferguson is going to be a good player for the future for the Rams.
Yeah, I will say, Zach, it did kill me a little bit. They didn't get my boy Beck. I thought Beck would have been so good in blue and yellow, but either way, I am definitely happy they got a tight end. I think he's going to be good. He's going to be someone I'm targeting, especially in Dynasty. I don't know if, like, overall fantasy, like Ferguson, his first year will be overly productive. It depends if Higby can stay healthy or not. But either way, I think he's going to start getting red zone targets, especially in the second half of the year. I think he's going to, once he gets into the system and grows,
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a monster red zone target.
And we do know. I mean, Sean McVay does tend to play things a little bit safer. He unless
Hmm.
he has to, he's not going to put in Ferguson unless something happens to Tyler Higbee. I think I agree. I agree with you that I think we're going to see him more on the second half once he gets into the system. Now, if something happened to Tyler Higbee closer to the start, I think that we would see him a lot sooner, even
Yeah.
with the depth pieces that we currently have in that tight end room. Only because I think that there is some concerns about the tight end room when it's not led by Tyler Higbee.
Yeah. And I think also an idea behind like not drafting another wide receiver until very late in the draft is because we have that additional dynamic pass catcher by drafting Ferguson. And I think the idea is like potentially you could have a two tight end set or something like that if you want. And I think it kind of bodes a good bit of confidence uh, for our previous wide receiver draft pick from last year that they think they don't need to draft someone in the second or third round or like third, fourth, fifth to kind of make up that production. They wanted an elite guy to help come in and like backfill if Adams or Puka get hurt. But I think they are showing a little bit of trust there too by drafting a tight end, not a wide receiver.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, I think in the wide receiver world, I mean, obviously we'll get down to it once we get to our last pick, but I agree with you. I think that they're comfortable with where they're at in that room, and we'll talk about when we get to the end, we'll talk about where we thought they should have hit. We'll talk about that too, and what the
Hmm.
future of that is going to look like. Again, if you guys are watching us live, please make sure you comment below, ask us questions, give us your thoughts. How did you guys feel about Ferguson being the first pick of the Rams for the 2025 draft? But as you guys start filling in that stuff, let's talk about the third round. So
Hmm.
we did stick with our third round pick. Um, is it interesting to you that we went edge with Josiah Stewart for Michigan?
No, it makes sense. I mean, I said this, and like people kind of said it was a hot take at the like that period of time, but I said this D line needed help with stopping the run, and they went out got Puna forward like that. That was an issue, and I feel like they're just broadening the depth of the roster there, and I think they're doing reverse thinking from what they've been doing with their defense since Aaron Donald left. When they had Aaron Donald, they wouldn't invest in the defensive line, and they would only invest when they had to into the secondary. And they have kind of flipped that, where they're really putting more priority, especially in picks, in the D line. Because they didn't have to do it beforehand, because Aaron Donald would get pressure no matter who he was around. I mean, when they did invest in it, we saw the like significant strides that D line made, because people like would eventually be able to get off blocks and stuff. But flip it now, like it's a total reversal. They didn't draft the cornerback at all. I think partially because they were able to re-sign Akello, and they're gonna get back Darian Kendrick. And I know people love to hate on Darian Kendrick. He wasn't that bad, and I feel like for the most part they feel like they can just invest on D line and get to the quarterback before he has a chance to throw to an open guy.
So, Do you think Byron Young should be worried about this pick?
He's the odd man out. We're gonna have to pay three out of the four linemen, and you can't pay for it out of four. You just don't have enough cap space, especially
Yeah, I
with
mean, yeah, I
like
mean, because I mean,
maybe
realistically,
if we have like a rookie QB under contract next year, possibly. we could pay all four of them. That's the only way. And you just
Oh,
have to look
that's
because
true. I mean,
Puka's coming up in 2 years also.
I mean, Puka, yeah. I mean, you got that, and obviously we have who we have. I just thought your thoughts. I mean, I do think that he would be the odd man out,
Yeah.
especially in this instance.
And he's more in the mold of a Byron Young, uh, of a not Terrell Lewis, Leonard Floyd. Like he's more of like a balanced pass rusher. I feel like when I watch Michigan, he kind of flies off the tape, or when not tape, but games whenever I would watch him, and I did like him. I don't know if I was anticipating them taking a D lineman in the third round. I thought they were going to go fourth or fifth,
Yeah.
but he's a little undersized, and I really don't care because I feel like we already have those elite trait guys. We don't need someone to win every rep. We need a solid, consistent depth piece, and I think he's exactly that. He's not going to win every one-on-one, but I feel like he's really good at making tackles, and he's really good at filling holes, and I feel like that's especially what we need from our edge because Hoyt, like, I know people love him, and he had his moments where he was really good. He also had moments where he was really bad, and he was the one of the biggest liabilities besides the linebackers on this team. And I feel like he's an upgrade from Hoyt, in my personal opinion. He won't be initially, but eventually he'll be a really good rotational piece, I believe.
Yeah, I think you kind of spoke it. The longer you talk about it, I agreed with you. I thought that we were going to get an edge, but I thought it was going to be later in the draft. But as we kind of keep talking about it, I really think that the Rams needed that depth piece to
Yeah.
be able to rotate Byron Young out or give Jared Verse a break, things like that. And like you said, Hoyt wasn't really is not really the answer for that. Um, and I really think that going with someone like Stewart is something that we definitely need to that's going to be doing really well for us.
Yeah, I was between D line or wide receiver. When they traded up, the wide receiver is kind of awkward place to be. It does make sense because really a lot of D tackles went early, but the edges outside of the top few kind of didn't go often in the second round because it wasn't a super like. It's like the wide receivers. You have like one or two top ones, but the rest of the class is like good,
Yeah.
just not great, and that's where we'll see if the pick pans out for the Rams. But it kind of makes sense. This is going to be a D line first defense for the foreseeable future. Oh,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
gonna we'll throw this back off. So we've been talking about Josiah Stewart, but we'll focus back on this question real quick. Does Ferguson mean Parkinson is gone or Allen to practice squad, or do they carry four? Um,
I I think Parkinson's cap hit is too much. So I would say Allen's going to go to the practice squad if they feel like he won't get picked up on waivers, and he probably won't.
yeah, I mean, there's a very small chance that they carry all four. I mean, that's a lot to put
No,
on
they're
your.
not going to carry all
Um,
four.
yeah, it's
Hey,
definitely a lot to put on that roster.
I like I liked Allen. I like the promise of him. It just I don't think he's gonna make the roster if we're gonna be honest. It kind of depends how the other roster spots work out with the other positions though. Like wide receivers depends. Like we kind of our wide receiver room took a pretty big overhaul this offseason, depth wise too. So
Yeah, but yeah, thanks, KB Hack, for that question.
mhm.
Great question.
Third
So
pick.
let's move on to our third pick of the draft. Again, we traded up for this, which is just feels like the Rams did a lot of trading around this draft.
Mhm.
So the Rams traded with the Colts so the Colts traded their 2025 fourth round pick, 117th overall, so that the Rams could get running back. Um, Jarquise Hunter, and the Rams traded away their fourth round pick, which was the 127th overall, so they jumped 10 slots. A 2025 sixth round pick, the 190th overall, who got the Colts got defensive tackle Tim Smith. Doesn't really matter about that. But what do you think about getting Hunter, getting a new running back to the mix behind Corum and Kyron Williams?
Uh, I like it. I feel like we needed to add to the running back room later. This is a really deep running back class. I thought there was an argument for adding one earlier because some of those guys are going to be really good studs. Uh, Apparently, they really liked Hunter. I watch mostly SEC when college is on. College being University, South Carolina, is what I mostly watch. So I liked Hunter as a prospect. I just didn't love him compared to other guys. He's one of those running backs. He does everything good. I even don't have an issue with his blocking, to be honest. He's good at breaking tackles, great at breaking tackles. It's hard to tell because running back is one of those ones where you have to really watch film in depth to realize, like, are the linemen doing the correct things? Is the running back reading the holes correctly? Like, it may look like a lineman's doing something bad, but they're pulling the gap wider so they can do a different, like, fill in the A or, like, so it's a little bit harder to judge. For the most part, like I said, Zach, I think it's a good pick, especially given who else was on the board. I think Tuden was there, and I would have preferred Tuden overall, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember, but
Yeah, it's when they got Blake Corum, it was almost a scratch your head moment. I liked Blake Corum when he was in Michigan. I mean, he was a breakout running back, but he's basically the same build as Kyron Williams. So when you brought him in, you thought you were going to be able to get some relief on him, but realistically, it was still the Kyron Williams show. Now, whether you don't like Kyron Williams because he's not an explosive running back, he's not always getting the 10+ yards that you need. Kyron Williams has always been that kind of gritty. If you need that 3 yards, you need to get that first down no matter what. Kyron Williams is your guy. He was a red zone target for the Rams for the entire season. There wasn't someone who could get in. No one could get into the red zone really, except for Kyron Williams for the 2024 season. But the Rams still knew they needed somebody to help complement Kyron Williams. They needed a speedster. They needed that 1-2 punch. They needed something similar than that Detroit has. With Montgomery and
Gibbs.
Gibbs. I almost said Swift, but I was like, he's already gone from that team. So Montgomery and Gibbs, they needed that Sonic and Knuckles punch, and I think that's what Hunter gives. It gives him a little bit more speedster, someone who's able to maybe break out a little bit more, gain more yards. But again, as we said with all of these players, I don't see them being the day one starters. This is all looking for the future. Kyron Williams will still be RB1. Tyler Higbee will still be tight end 2. Obviously, Byron Young and Jared Verse, those are going to be our edge players for a start. But this is where the Rams are looking for the future. This is a future draft selection. This isn't we're building depth pieces. We're building for the future. We're not worried about some of our key stars because we still have really good key stars currently in-house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think he's less of a speedster, more like he he's really good and explosive with his first, like, foot or first step. Like, he has a good first step, reads the open hole, and then just goes, and he can break tackles. That's more like he's good at breaking tackles and going quick enough where, like, he can get the home run hits. He's faster. I think him and Corum are around the same speed personally. He is definitely faster than Kyron. So we'll see. Do you think this spells bad things for Kyron when it comes to contract negotiations?
I don't
Because
think so, because again,
they are saying they're separated right now
and
on
I
money.
don't disagree, and I think that Kyron Williams wants his worth, and I get it. I
Yeah.
think that there's going to be some negotiations. Obviously, the Rams are always going to low, and Kyron Williams in camp is going to go high. That's just how the teams work. Um, Should he be making Saquon Barkley money? Should he be making Derrick Henry money? That's a little bit different. Um, I think that they're going to come to a compromise. And for the Rams' sake, it's better to do it sooner rather than later. But I don't think the Rams are worried. I mean, again, I love Kyron Williams. I want him to stay. I think it would be a disservice to the Rams organization to move on from him. But to the butt of that, I do think that again we have Blake Corum, who is kind of like that carbon copy. We didn't get to see too much of him because again, Kyron Williams was really the the, the showrunner for the running back room. Um, but I could see Hunter taking a larger role if there are still some bumps in the road as far as the RB camp goes. But I do expect Kyron Williams to be signed or at least play through his last year of contract.
Yeah, I'll just say I feel a lot more confident this year, like with Kyron starting, like if he goes down, like with those two back to back, like being able to split the workload and be able to carry the team offense so it doesn't crumble like it did when Kyron got hurt 2 years ago.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
that's big goal.
Yep. Moving on to their fourth pick. Again, the Rams traded up. They traded up with the Bears. They took the Bears fifth round pick, 148th overall to pick defensive tackle Kyle Hamilton. That costed the Rams their 25th sixth round pick, 195th overall, and their 2026 fourth round pick. All right, we're getting a defensive tackle. How are you feeling about this? I mean, finally, we're getting more players to help stop the run, which has been the sorest part of this amazing young Rams defense.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, I do feel like the D line got better at that the second half of the season, and it was more the second and third level of the defense was struggling with stopping the run. Uh, Again, like the D line was having some issues with that still, but they got better. These picks just reiterate they really want to nip that in bud, especially on the first level and on the second level. And I feel like the things they did in this draft address both. Ty Hamilton, he's on the national champions defense, was a really good role player when it comes to stopping the run. And I feel like they had a top 10 college defense when it comes to stopping the run. So, like, I'm pretty confident with them adding him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a depth piece again that we needed. You know, it. I was kind of looking things up as we were talking about this, and even the Athletic had Ty Hamilton. He had a third round grade on some of their scouting reports. So I think this is a good pick. It's a good value. I think that the Rams they need that depth piece, and again, it's one of those things where you need to help stop the run. And adding Puna Ford obviously is impeccable. Having Laurel Murchison back on the line as well. But again, you need somebody to be able to help fill in and be able to rotate in, and I think this is going to be that good piece for that.
Yeah, and they're definitely transitioning from like a pure role player mindset of drafting pure role players like they did in 2018, 2019, like 21, where they were just so top heavy on the roster that like you could backfill with people who are just good at stopping the run or playing one scheme or only special teams. And you have seen more and more they're trying to go after more well-rounded players, so I feel like that's also a little bit a part of this.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. All right, so the Rams make another trade. The Rams only picked one out of all their picks of this draft. Only one of them was their original pick uh, on the draft board when it was. Why did I just already blank his name? Josiah Stewart. That was the only pick that they had originally in this draft. So, anyways, we're going to go to pick number 5 with Chris Poo Paul Jr. out of Ole Miss, finally getting an inside linebacker. You know how much the Rams value that inside linebacker. They continually to pay year after year for it. Oh wait, no, sorry, the Rams don't do that at all. They
Oh,
they always look to the draft when it comes to their inside linebacker. They never look outside. They don't ever really, you know, keep linebackers. What do you think about getting Chris Poo Paul Jr.?
linebacker problems, never heard of her. Nothing unrestricted free agent and Troy Reader can't fix. That's all I'm gonna say. All I'm gonna say. No, no.
Heartbreaking,
In
heartbreaking. Mention
in
Reader, I
all
get heartbreak.
seriousness, like I kind of laughed because like people were like, "Oh, let's draft a linebacker in the first, second round." Y'all, I try to tell y'all, this team ain't gonna ever draft an inside linebacker in the first or second round. Not as Les Need and McVay are the combo. It's something I don't know when they first got together that weekend. They must have drive through, and an inside linebacker spit in their food or something, and they're just like, okay, never gonna touch that position with value again. They go bargain bin shopping, and that's really what you just got to learn. Like, I was surprised they ever even considered taking Jones in the third. I think they didn't expect him to fall, and he kind of fell in their lap, and they took him then. But as for Pooh, like, fantastic player. I think he's already an upgrade uh, over everyone but Spates, and I expect him being next to Spates after starting the year. I think we drafted our starting linebacker, which is sad. I honestly
This
think
could
we did.
this could be the Puka pick. I mean, you got to think about this. This could be that Puka pick, that Cooper Cup pick, that pick that it's the diamond in the rough, so to speak. It's the pick that you get later in the round and you get the most value of. And I 100% agree with you. He may not be day one starter, but I think out of all of these, he has the best chance to be that day one starter.
Who's going to start over him?
Well, sure, but
It's either going to be him or the undrafted guy. I really do like the UDFA linebacker they got. I forget his name, but I think
from where?
he might be from Kentucky. He's from the SEC.
Let's see. Sean Dolak from Buffalo is an inside
Oh,
linebacker.
Buffalo. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that was
Dolak. I like him too. But overall, like, uh, was it Ole Miss is where he played the Rebels,
Pook.
right?
Yeah, Pool. Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, Ole Miss's defense was spotty to say the least in the last 2 years. Jackson Dart was carrying that team for majority of their season, but he was the bright spot. He was all over the place. Now he isn't the quickest guy, but his instincts are amazing, and I definitely feel like he's similar. He's a very similar player to Spades. Like, really sure tackler. He's always in the right place. He knows how to track the ball. He can read plays. He's not the quickest guy, so that's kind of why he didn't get drafted high, in my
but
personal
he's
opinion.
but I think he's smart. I think he has
Yeah,
that
super smart.
smartness to him. Because again, like when I was looking through all of his stats, prepping for this podcast, because I don't watch all of these draft guys. You watch way more college football than me. But when I was looking at him, he in doing my research, he was the one position that the Rams really need is someone to call the defensive plays. They kind of bounce that around from player to player, and Paul, Paul, however, he was the signal caller for the Rebels, and so being able to find someone who can be that next green dot guy is
Yeah.
something that I think the Rams really need. We've had players do it, and it's been great interim, but I always felt like the green dot needs to be more that inside linebacker position. Uh, to me. I mean, obviously safety can do it as well, But any time outside of that, I think it really should fall to the inside linebackers, who is able to kind of see the scheme up front, see the scheme kind of to the sides, and has a really good vantage point.
Yeah, and it also like them not drafting safety kind of shows they're happy with their safety room right now. So
And he's a strong tackler. I mean, you know how much every single week we say that the Rams just miss tackles. And so that's what I'm hoping that he can bring in, especially again, trying to stop that run from the inside. That's what we need. We need good tacklers, and I
well,
think who is going to be one of those.
so it won't necessarily like fix all of our defensive problems, but we were having a large amount of explosive plays happen where like an 8 or 9 yard catch, like if we had an inside linebacker who could tackle, it would have only been 9, 10, 11 yards versus 15, 17, 18, 20. And statistically, every extra yard per explosive increases the percentage chance you're going to score because of momentum and kind of like how the game flow goes and stuff like that. And it does matter like having more secure tacklers and reducing, because like as we saw in the Super Bowl, like they got 8 yards in that first play, but secure tackle, I believe that was Jones too. We were able to stop them 3 more plays in a row, and we won the Super Bowl because of that.
Yeah.
So it's super important, and happy we got a. It appears to be a kind of stud in the 5th round.
Yes, I'm again. None of these picks are, I hate to say it because I
Wow.
think these guys can be stars, but they're not the wow factors. I feel like the
Yeah.
Rams always try to
Wow.
become. They are great players in of themselves, but they're not the flashy stars that I feel like people on the Rams or anybody else would see. But when you go through their stats, when you go through their fits for the Rams, they make perfect sense. And the Rams, once again, with their last pick, made another perfect stance with bringing in wide receiver Kanata Mumfield from Pitt.
Mhm.
Again, the Rams, you think like, hey, the Rams lost Cooper Cup. They really need to get more explosive on the wide receiver. They need red zone targets. But is that really what the Rams needed going into this draft when you already had players like Puka Nakua, Devontae Adams, Tutu Atwell, uh, why you have Xavier Smith, who I think gets kind of really is pushed out because of this. Jordan
Yeah.
Whittington. You have a couple others on the roster, but realistically, I think Xavier Smith's time may be done bringing in someone like Mumfield into the fold.
Yeah, I wonder if they're gonna try to have Robinson's role kind of replaced, um, either by him or last year's rookie. But uh, I didn't watch a lot of ACC. I believe Pitt is in, so I wasn't super familiar. It looks like, again, like we can talk about how many times have the Rams drafted someone where most of the NFL is like who when they're coming out outside of Aaron Donald. Like if you talk about most, I would say Blake Corum is probably biggest name we drafted in the last 3 or 4 years coming out of college. Like no one knew who Puka Nakua was outside of like hardcore BYU fans. So I feel like they're really good
Sure.
at like being able to read these metrics. They have a really good analytics team, and I feel like we don't talk about that enough, or like a lot of reporters don't talk about that enough. Is their analytics team is so cutting edge with how they gather all this data about like how dynamic a player is speed wise, cuts, in game speed. I believe they look at way more than like the arcadic 40 time, right? That's how
Yeah.
they got Cooper Cup when they did. And, that I feel like that's another reason why they're able to make a lot of these high value picks when other teams just whiff completely, especially in the later rounds. And I feel like for most part, like we'll see if this Pitt wide receiver can kind of follow that mold. 7th round wide receivers for the Rams, Zach, haven't really panned out. Let's be honest, right? Um,
Sure.
we'll, we'll
Yeah. I
we'll
mean,
see. Like,
it is what it
he
is.
seems like good depth.
Yeah, I mean, and you're going to need someone on special teams. You're going to need someone to be able to punt return the ball. I'm not saying it's going to be him, but you're going to need somebody on that team.
That's why you
And
got
so,
Cooper Cup.
well,
You go
Cooper
get
Cup's
him
not on your
again.
team. But
You get him again to do that.
okay, I'm still hurt talking about Cooper Cup. Let's move on. All right, so in all honesty, I mean, I really do think that this again was this the sexiest class of draft class that the Rams have done. No, but I think it fits what the Rams need right now and what they could use to fill in for the the short term future at least.
Yeah.
And the Rams are looking to position themselves even better with next year. I mean, having 2 first-round picks is going to be crucial, depending wherever they fall, whether that means they trade up or whatever. I think the Rams are in a prime spot to be competitive for the future, and that's what this draft was about. Whether they picked 6 or 10 or whatever, I think the Rams nailed it in general. Not just with the 6 that they had here, but being able to get that first round in 2026.
So Zach, do you think they should have taken a swing at Shadur in the 5th round?
Uh, we always talk about the Rams can handle any situation. Whether someone has been called toxic, whether they have been called misfit, they don't work well with others. The Rams have always been able to course correct those commentators on certain players. The world will see. The world will see how this goes. I think the Rams in a 5th-round pick. I think the Rams could have done it, and it wouldn't have hurt. But let's remember, Sanders was going to be a first-round pick, or was going to be a starter. He wants to be a starter. I don't think anybody else was going to, who had a starter, was going to pick him up as a backup.
Yeah, I mean, one day we'll know like the full history, whatever happened there, because he's definitely not a 5th-round talent. I didn't think
Oh
he
no,
was
I
a
mean
top. I didn't think he was a 1st-round like quarterback. I thought maybe at the end of the 2nd round, personally, but or end of the 1st round, like top of the 2nd round. But he's definitely not a 5th-round quarterback.
yeah, he was. I mean, the other crazy part was that he was also the 6th quarterback to get off the board.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Dylan Gabriel before him is nuts.
well, and isn't Gabriel also on Cleveland's team? Didn't they pick him before
Yeah,
him?
yeah, they picked him in the 3rd round.
Like,
And then picked him in 5th. And can we also talk about, Zach, how some of these teams are so weird, like the Bucks going for like 2 or 3 wide receivers when they already have Goodwin, and like it's like, what are you doing? And same thing
with
with Green
Cleveland,
Bay.
with Cleveland though, like you look at it, they picked Gabriel first, and then they moved up to get Sanders in the 5th round. They traded up to get him. When you
They're
just picked
afraid the Rams were going to get him.
maybe it's just that whole situation is crazy, and probably one of the craziest stories that we're going to hear for the foreseeable future is about.
If he works out, man, that's going to
I
be
mean,
a nut.
it would be really great for Cleveland because they got to get themselves out of the biggest hole in the existence of the NFL. But you know, I I don't know what they're. I mean, it's good for them and Sanders, but then they wasted a 3rd-round pick. I mean, they got 5 quarterbacks now. Like, what are
But
you
they
going to
can
do?
always trade him away, though. So, like,
Sure, but are they? Will that actually happen? I don't know.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I thought it was interesting. I would have, I wouldn't have mind in the 5th round. Just like see what we got in him, and plus it makes the preseason a little bit more entertaining to me.
Yeah, I just think that it was going to be. I don't know if him and Stafford would have clicked.
Now I have to watch another year of Bennett. I'm assuming
No, you won't watch Bennett because Garoppolo will be the backup.
he doesn't play in the preseason.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's another year of Bennett in the preseason for
Okay,
me.
preseason doesn't count anyways. All right, so the kind of wrapping things up. So after that, the Rams did get 17 undrafted free agents.
Yep.
Still not on the list was a quarterback. So, they picked up a couple safeties, but again, they still did not get. And again, I think we've talked about. I think that there's some depth pieces there that the Rams are going to be really good at. Obviously, we're on the Jalen Ramsey watch. We have not talked about it. I don't know. Did you talk about it with Soup last time?
We mentioned it a little bit, and I think we both came to the consensus like they could draft a cornerback, but they're probably not really going to touch the position. I wouldn't mind it, but I thought like we had depth, and the
It would,
Rams agreed.
yeah. I mean, and I think like for the whole Jalen Ramsey thing, I think if it came at a cheap deal, I don't think the Rams would mind it. But I don't know.
I would want him out safety. I wouldn't want him in cornerback. I feel like people forget like he was having a really rough time in 21 and 22 covering people.
Yeah, but
And
he
he's
was
not
actually
terrible.
fine
Like
in Miami. But Miami was just also a disaster in of itself.
yeah, Miami has a lot of problems. So I don't know if he was one. I didn't watch a lot of Miami games, but I will say for the most part, like at the end of 21 and 22, I felt like he fell off a little bit. He was losing his speed. He wasn't terrible. Like he was still good, uh, but he wasn't a top 10 DB anymore when he was starting to end his time with us.
Yeah.
But I would like him back as really good depth, or like I think he would be a great safety.
Agree. I agree. I would love him as our safety. That'd be really good. Playing with Quentin Lake, I think that would be
Mm-hmm.
pretty sweet. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this episode up? It's one of our shorter ones.
No.
It's crazy, but at 52 minutes, I'm calling it short.
Call it short.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us on the 2025 Rams Draft Review Spectacular. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys got some insight on this information. We love giving you guys our thoughts. Me and Ashton don't always agree, but hey, we love just talking Rams all day, every day. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@EastCoastRams. You can also find us on all the social media platforms. You can find us on X @EastCoastRams. You can find us on Blue Sky, search for @EastCoastRams. You can also find us on Threads and Instagram @EastCoastRamsPod. I'm Zach. You can find me at Zach Mayer on X and Ashton at Rampant Ashton1. Woo! This was a fun episode. And Ashton, thank you for being being the co-host of this show. It's just great to do this each and every week with you.
Yeah, it's a fun outlet. Hopefully they don't stress us out a lot next year.
Oh, hey, if they did, we're going to have therapy session once again. But with that, we are going to wrap this episode of the East Coast Rams up. We will see you guys next week. Whose house? Rams' house.